All right, let's go. This is a great little drive. I do it all. Well, I go working up here, so I do at least once a week. If you're coming from town, Kailua, you'll make a right at this little intersection here. I live up above, so I'm making a left because I'm coming down from my house, and here we go. It's a great little drive, very pleasant. Most of the time, sometimes people are wild. Free truck, lots of those in Hawaii, and here we go. It's a little curvy, two lane, 30 miles an hour. You don't need to race. The whole thing. It's sometimes busy and sometimes a little nutty, but anyhow, we're gonna have a nice drive today. It's sunny. There's a lot of greenery. It's a pretty cool cruise. You don't have to really rush through it. And there's an old wooden water tank. That's from the old days, one of the last of them. And we'll just go ahead and head on down the road. On either side, there's a lot of coffee farms, and the right-hand side, that was all mowed down recently, and they're building a bunch of big houses in there. So we do lose some farmland here and there, and that's just the way it is. When I first moved here, this was be the low-income areas up here. You could still find some inexpensive rentals, but not too often. Keep your lights on for safety, because when you come in these corners and it's shadowy and you have a dark car, it's hard to see. And amazing enough, Hawaii has a lot of accidents, but we're not up here, not today. It's a very pleasant. There's that car. It's going in through his gate. There's a lot of big gated houses, and they've taken over a lot of the coffee farms. And of course, they get their ag um, tax rate, so they keep their farm going because they're kind of required to. Because we didn't want to lose all our coffee farms to big expensive houses. And up all these roads are whole little worlds of houses. Some of the older Kamaina houses are still there, and you'll come up on your right. The first place is Hula Daddy. I've never actually personally walked in there, but they have all kinds of fancy coffees. And we'll just continue on down the road. There's a lot of places. You'll see coffee trees and little farms all around. On the left here is Green Lion. That's an older school place up that road. And some of the nicer areas, but expensive now. Like these older little houses, you'll see a lot of big houses, but some of the older Kamaina houses still are owned by the families. But once they sell, you won't be able to afford to come up here. I won't. Maybe you can. And down all these roads, these houses are $1 million up here. Coming up, there's Monarch Coffee that's up here in a fancy subdivision. Sometimes they leave the gate open and they're little banners and you can drive up. But usually that's one of those gated communities that's locked up. But it's a very pleasant drive. You see some of the older houses have been here for a while. The families may still live in them. Once they sell them, though, it's not coming back. You're going to probably have to leave the island because you won't be able to replace anything. It's a cool cruise. I think you'd really enjoy it. We're gonna, there's still a lot of vacant land up here. And this is the Lilikalani Trust, which is a big Hawaiian trust, the Queen Lilikalani Trust. They own a lot, almost $900 million worth of land, plus the cash they have. And yeah, they got it all. Supposedly they run some orphanage, but I've never once seen an orphanage by them. But they have this and that. They do a few things, but they're a really big land trust. They got almost $1 billion worth of land here in Kona. But at least, some of the land doesn't get built up right away. But they will eventually put subdivisions. That's what they do with their land in Oahu. Hey, a little meeting out here. What are they doing? Anyway, just joking and cruising along. And it's nice to see the open area. It's nice and green. And generally, we'll have a good drive today. Generally pretty mellow driving. A lot nicer than the highways down below. But you'll see some big old mango trees hanging. Those would be the common mango. But if they were laying there, you could go pick some. They're not always that great of a mango, though. And if you saw coffee out on this road coming up, sometimes you can, if it's hanging over by the road, you could come pick a little for yourself. You couldn't get enough to make any money or anything, but you could do a little bit up. And here's some of the older Kamaina houses. Um, I'm not sure how many have sold over the years, but in today's market, these would all be $1 million houses at least. And a lot of little coffee farms around them. You can see the coffee trees, big mangoes. It's a lot cooler up at this elevation. Quite a bit cooler. It's probably 10 degrees cooler up here than down by the coast. So a lot of people like to live up around this 800-foot, 1,000-foot level. It's a lot more pleasant. I'm going to make a quick stop here. So hang on. We'll be right back on the road in just a second. There we go. That's up through a big cape, through a big house, but here we go again. Let's continue on down the road. See on the left here, a lot of those trees were trimmed recently and are growing back. Every now and then they cut them way back. And this is coming up. Here's there's a great little store, Kate Como. A little couple was like in their 90s, ran it. And I used to stop there all the time. This nice little store with their basic things. But that's one thing. Once one of the older couples or people, the family retires or doesn't want to do it anymore, the kids never take over. In fact, if when they pass away, the family will sell that in a minute. That's just the way it is. The older stuff goes fast. These are all like down that road. Those are all big, giant estates, big, giant places. Similar to the one you'll see it on the right. Here's a big house up by the highway. That's what's down there. Big white elephants, man. Those. Anyway, we all make good money taking care of those things, trying to keep them running. So if the weather's nice. If you have a lot of money and a lot of maintenance money, you can get one of them. All coffee trees, nice and rich, all over the sides of the road. So there's a lot of coffee grown. Most of these smaller farms sell their beans to the bigger places. They don't necessarily do it on their own. There we are. And yeah, see, it's a great drive. We're going to come up onto the little town here, Honolulu, in just a second. There we go. Isn't it a nice cruise? All right. Malcolm Meadows. A lot of Japanese like to go to the buy this coffee. I went down and bid on a big water feature they had, but I think I was too expensive. It's really an elaborate farm with little names for each tree and all that. So it's pretty neat if you pull into any of these places. Anyone's welcome. Um, that's one of the big coffee producers. But I believe most of their coffee gets sent to Japan. And still, there's still a few of the older houses, family houses that people have had for generations. And like I say, if they sold them, there's nothing you can really buy to replace because they've gone up in value so much. There we go. Not too much traffic today, a little bit. Everyone's pretty mellow and cruising. And here we go. All right, next stop, UCC, Ushimura Coffee Company. There they are. They're on your right-hand side. You can pull in there. They have little coffee samples and things like that. Like when I first lived here in the early 80s, we used to stop at up in South Dakota at places like that to get the free coffee samples. They'd always give us a little sideways glance, but we still stopped in, a bunch of surfers. They're little tiny cups. We just drink like 4 or 5. Anyway, look, more coffee trees. There's great coffee farms. Depending on the time of the year, you might see them all blooming, like the Kona snow, all white coffee flowers. And other times of the year, you see the red cherry. And right now, I think it's mainly green. A few ripe cherries going on. And Letterman, this is like one of the older coffee places from the old days. They're one of the old coffee families. It's been around a long time. Most coffees kind of switched hands, and This became kind of a rich man's estate because they like a big house and then they need coffee growing so they get the tax break. And they also, I think in some of them they have to keep the coffee growing. You can see all these there. There's a place, probably get that for 5 million or so. But then we got the little bridge you come up on. It's kind of rustic and cool. Let's hoping the Mickey gate on the right was shut because it's pretty cool. There's a Mickey Mouse on it. It's kind of a landmark in Kona, but their gate's open today. Let's keep on cruising. We're going to come up here in a little bit on Alualoa, the only really little town up here. It's kind of preserved. It's mostly little art stores and art cottages nowadays. That's what's mainly there. We're missing our donkey here. Used to be on the right. Used to live up by where our old place we lived. That donkey lived there. Now he lives in that field there, but he's not there today. He must be up at the upper meadow. But we always liked him. A couple of the older style houses right on the road, because this used to just be a really slow country road at one time. It wasn't a major thoroughfare, and there wasn't that many big, expensive houses up here. But now there's a bit. There's a few little sections with some old Kamaina style, but they're all very valuable now. You would never get one at a deal, and your rent would be extremely high if you could find somewhere to rent. That's definitely true. Houses start probably about $3,000 for a real basic one. Can go on up quite a bit. And here's probably the only local cool places in this brown building. He's not open today, but this little guy who makes things out of OP shells. He makes little people and stuff. And if you're ever going to buy a little souvenir, that's the guy to buy it from. Most of these shops in town are well-to-do or owned by mainlanders, and they're little fancy art shops. But it's a pretty cool town. Not really too many sidewalks. It's easy to walk around. There is a coffee place back there. And here's one of the last of the old stores, Paul's Place. They've made it because they have a good location in town there. No one's ever came and put a big corporate place up here, luckily. So it's kind of saved them. And we're coming up here. We've done the first half of the road, and we'll do another time. We'll do the second half of the road. But we're going to come up here to Hualalai Road, and when you turn right onto it, you'll cruise right back down to Kona. So it's a nice little loop. Doesn't take long, maybe half hour at the most. But it's a nice little drive, and you can keep going down this road too and see a lot more, and end up at Tashima's Japanese restaurant for lunch, which is probably the best place to eat in Kona right now. It's really up at the top of the hill, kind of just out of town. And here we come. You can see the scenery's great. All these little roads have all kinds of places up them, but I don't go up those roads too much unless you have a reason to. They might look a little askance at you. And bananas, coffee, mac nuts, mangoes, lychees, all kinds of stuff grows up here. But yeah, there we go. Pretty cool cruise. And we're going to go ahead and it's a really sharp right onto this road, Hualalai Road. And most people that lived here a long time, they know that not to come right up on like this guy did, because you can just squeeze by. But people who live here a long time know not to do that. But, all right, thanks a lot. Subscribe, like, and do all the stuff, and we'll do the next trip soon.